Good morning, Central Florida. JT Muscle here. Welcome back to the channel. Another walk and talk video. And in this video, I want to talk about a question that I'm sure a lot of people ask at some point if they're looking to make a change to their lifestyle, whether it be working out or losing weight. And it's whether or not you should try a low carb diet or a low calorie diet, or whichever, if you're planning on changing up your diet to reach a certain fitness goal. So I want to talk about why I chose to do low carb for the last year and a half or so. And to be straight up front, you can do it either way. I've gotten lean by eating low calorie, low fat, like traditional dieting. I've done it that way. I've also done it low carb, as you saw my 30-day challenge and the last year and a half or so that I've been following low carb. And there's pros and cons to each one. But the reason why I chose and why it worked for me to do the low carb was, so your muscles, or your body, let's just say your muscles though, need two things. Doesn't matter how you get them, these are the two things that it needs. It needs protein to build, and it needs a fuel source to work. That's it. Don't make it complicated. Those are the two things the muscle needs. Okay, so protein is pretty standard. We know. You eat protein for your muscles. Got it, okay? Now, you need a fuel source. You have two options. It's kind of like if you go to the store and you pay with cash or if you pay with credit card. Doesn't matter, you're still paying for it. There's pros to cash, there's pros to credit cards, right? Same thing with carbs or fats. You can use either one to fuel your muscles. And there's pros and cons to each one of those. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're eating high carb or high fat. The issue becomes if you're doing both. For example, if you try to take and pay with card and cash at the same time, it's not going to work. You're going to overpay, right? And you're going to have overage, which turns to fat. You see the analogy? Okay, so it doesn't matter. So let's get that out of the way right from the jump, okay? So those are the two things you need. Now, when it comes to a fuel source, you can do carbs or fat like I mentioned. And the way that it works is if you eat carbs, your body is going to use those carbs, if it can, right away, because that's what it knows is energy, okay? If it has an abundance of carbs, then it's going to take and store it as fat. And this is why you get fat if you overeat and you don't burn off enough energy, and so these carbs turn to fat. On the flip side, if you take and you eat fat, your body then uses that as its energy source. And if you were to take and eat too much, and you were in a calorie surplus, right? Your body could take and store some of that as fat. However, it is very difficult to overindulge on a high fat if you're using fat as a fuel source. It's very easy to overeat when eating carbs. And there's a few reasons for that, and that's why I'm going to get into that. But before I get into that, no matter which one you pick, there's going to be an adjustment period, okay? You have to teach your body that is what you're going to take. I'm going to go over here. That's what you're going to take and use as your fuel source. Now, most of you right now have been eating carbs pretty much your whole life, so you're already adjusted. There's no adjustment period. You in, okay? But if you were to switch over to a high fat diet and start using that as your fuel source, it's going to take a while for your body to, one, recognize that the fat is now your fuel source. Two, change the microbiome in your gut to be able to accommodate the high fat that it's going to need to break down for the energy versus the high carb that it's been used to, right? So it's going to take some adjustment period. I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks. If it's your very first time doing it, it may take a little bit longer. But like, let's say you did, 6 months on and you took a month off and you went back again for another 6 months, your body would adjust. Each time you do it, the longer you do it, the faster your body will adjust. For example, if I take a week off and I take and then get back on, in probably 2 days, my body's adjusted, okay? So just recognize that you're gonna need an adjustment period, okay? But what's neat is, no matter which one you pick, like let's say you're doing the high fat, when your body starts used to that energy source, then when it gets the other energy source, so let's say you're eating high fat and then you have a carb meal, right? You take and you have a bagel or something with your breakfast, or pancakes or something like that, right? Well, typically, if you were following high carb, and let's say that those carbs were in abundance, that would become body fat. But when you're doing high fat, your body says, hey, I don't use this for fuel. I really have no idea what I'm going to do with this. Let's just get rid of it. And you'll find that if you were to have a small amount of carbs, your body would almost ignore it. So it's kind of a neat little trick that I've found, that you can almost have a small cheat meal with really no effect, okay? However, if you're on high carb and then you take and you eat a super high fat meal, it's going to be loaded with a lot of calories, you're probably going to take and experience some weight gain right off the bat. Your body's not just going to, it's going to get rid of some of it. It's going to realize, hey, this is too much fat, but it's not going to be like on the high fat, okay? Now another reason, and the main reason, okay, for doing it this way is, I found it's easier to stay more disciplined on a low carb diet than it is on a standard diet. And the reason why is, when you're on a low carb diet, you are not hungry and you can eat as much as you want. So you never feel like, oh man, I'm really hungry, but I only got 200 calories left in the day. I'm starving. I really want this, but I got to have this plate of broccoli. I can't even have the cheese on it. Like, you don't have to do that, okay? You eat until you're full. And you can eat literally, like, it's very hard to overeat, okay? So I found it's more disciplined, because those meals that would cause us to go off the wagon, you can't have them from the beginning, right? If you're on a standard diet, and let's say you want, and I always use Chinese, right? So let's say you want Chinese. If you're doing a low fat diet and then you have Chinese, it doesn't affect your body's ability to process carbs. It doesn't affect your body to take and use that fuel source the way that it's intended. You might have a surplus, you might gain some weight, but if you're doing like a carnivore or a low carb diet and you have Chinese food, it's going to affect for a few days the way your body responds to that fuel source. So there's more of a negative effect, okay? So by knowing that, you're going to limit that type of foods from the beginning, because you know, okay, I can't have it. It's kind of set in your brain. The other thing is, once you get rid of the carbs, you lose those addictions. So you no longer are addicted to the foods that cause the most negative effect, which then makes it easier to stay disciplined and following your meal plan. You start to crave things like steak, like shrimp, like, I don't know, chicken, eggs, bacon, things like that, which is great because that's what you eat. So you kind of lose those cravings, and especially the longer you go, you don't take and get those cravings. So by doing the low carb, you're able to stay more disciplined. you don't feel full, which also helps you stay more disciplined. But then also, because you're not eating those carbs, you lose the addictions for all of that, and you feel better. Like you don't feel hungry. So by taking these different approaches, you don't get the negative effects of when you're on a diet and feel like, oh, this sucks. Okay, now the other thing is water weight. A huge issue I have with the carbs is that you're going to take and lose, or gain so much water weight essentially with every meal you're eating. You're going to take and you're going to be sucking in a ton of water with this, okay? And that immediately is going to take you feel more bloated. It's going to cause you to essentially gain weight, but it's just water. But it's just going to negatively impact you. You're going to feel bloated when you look in the mirror. You're not going to look as good. On a carnivore diet, because you don't have any of that water weight, you're always going to look leaner. Like it just by removing the bloat, okay? You instantly are going to take and look better, which is going to take and cause a positive effect on your day, how you start your day, but just in how you feel. Like your pants are going to feel tight after lunch. So there's just going to be a lot of positive reinforcement throughout the day that's going to also keep you motivated. So the whole point that I'm trying to make in this video is that yes, you can do it either way. But it's just, in my opinion, a lot easier to take and follow this type of lifestyle because of how it keeps you disciplined and how it provides positive reinforcement throughout the day. Now, the first time you try it, it's going to be a little difficult and you're probably going to fail, and that's okay. Start it again. When I first started, I did it for 2 weeks, and then I was like, I don't know, do I want to keep doing this? Took a couple days off, felt like crap. All right, let me do it again. Did it for, I think, another couple weeks, felt a little better, started eating carbs, felt crap again. All right, so I did that probably, 2 or 3 times, and then I really was like, okay, this is working for me. This is how I feel. And it got to a point where I was happier, even if I didn't lose weight, just because of how good I felt and how I wasn't hungry and just like my whole mood for the day versus the way I was eating. So even if I was doing a standard low calorie diet and I was losing a little bit of weight, I still felt better doing this, even if I lost 0 weight for the day. If that makes sense. So hopefully you guys found some insight on this video, and if you're thinking about trying a low carb carnivore lifestyle, I recommend doing a few things before you start. 1, join a couple Facebook groups for the diet you want to follow, right? Join some carnivore groups, keto groups, low fat group, whatever it is you're going to follow. Take and get some groups and just find some fitness groups. That's also going to provide motivation throughout the day, and it's a great way for you to ask questions, listen to other people's questions, and see kind of what their questions are. So I recommend doing that. The second thing I recommend doing is go on YouTube, watch some videos to kind of learn about the diet program before you start the program. Now, be careful. There's a lot of misinformation on YouTube. So take it with a grain of salt, but just learn. Learn about you're still going to get the principles that you need to understand the diet. You want to know beforehand what kind of lifestyle you're going to be living, what the diet's going to be like, okay? Second, understand that there's going to be times that you're going to maybe need a snack, or you're going to need food in an emergency type thing. Have a plan. Say, okay, I'm doing carnivore, let's say. Okay, I'm going to have eggs for breakfast and steak for lunch, or steak for dinner. Great. But what happens when you don't have time to cook a steak and you're hungry, and you need something. You need to have your plan now so you don't reach for the Cheez-Its later, okay? Are you gonna have an all beef hot dog? Are you going to have some turkey rolls already prepared, or pepperoni with, you know, like a mozzarella pepperoni roll? Like, what are you gonna have? Have something planned. This way, when you're like, oh man, I'm kind of hungry, especially during the adjustment period. Oh man, I'm kind of hungry. Okay. Oh, let me snack on 2 of these turkey rolls or something like that. You see what I'm saying? So just have a plan. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, hit me up on social. I'm here to help. If you want me to make a video on something else that you have a question about, or a certain lifestyle, diet, thing like that, just leave it down in the comments or hit me up on social. Thank you guys so much for the support, especially during the Father's Day challenge. Man, that was awesome, seeing all the comments and just people reaching out. And a few people actually started it. Some people started doing push-up challenges, so it was very cool to kind of see it motivate others, because that's definitely what this channel is about. So drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and make sure you eat your steak, do your push-ups. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. JT Muscle, out.